All right, everybody. So it's probably the last long video you'll get before the winter storm happens here. So anybody who's in the path of Winter Storm Gerri, I hope you guys stay warm, stay safe. We've been doing a little bit of work, not a lot. We actually dragged in all of our... So as you can see, last weekend we basically hauled absolutely everything in. Hauled in patio palms, bunch of other seedlings, our banana pups that I dug up, our blue javas, oranges, other bananas, our fruit trees for the ranch, and my personal stash of palms over here. But we basically hauled everything in because we're not taking any chances. It's just way too cold for that. Stupid. Unnecessary. So all this stuff is in. And let me... I'm going to walk you guys to a quick little walk around. So as you guys know, I don't really cover a whole lot. I used to kind of go crazy in the beginning. And then I realized if I'm covering so much, then things don't belong here. So what I've done is our Birminghams outside over here, of course, they get no cover. They don't care. I had an extra strand of lights that I just threw over the banana just to see if I can somehow keep this thing just warm enough. I ran out of a frost cloth. I was going to put a cloth and then do the lights, but didn't do that. Ran out. It is what it is. A Birmingham, a Louisiana that has seen 10 degrees that doesn't really care. A Brazoriensis. What's going to be interesting, this is quoted as a riverside, so this guy might get banged up a little bit, but we'll find out. A needle palm that, as you can imagine, could care less about the cold weather. This is good. This one's going to be interesting. This is our Lisa. These things actually sailed through 10 degrees. Got banged up a little bit, you could tell. That's all last year's growth. But they came out strong. They're kind of coming along. So we'll see. I mean, again, I know people have them out here, and they've done okay with them. So we're going to ride these out and be a good gauge of what can live out here in North Texas. So as I said, our Brazoriensis, this one hasn't really had any issues at all, and I don't expect that. So quick look on Sable Row up front. This is a Louisiana, which has been slow to grow this year because of the drought. No problems. This is a dwarf minor, which I don't expect to have any issues either. This is another big old Brazoriensis, which again, I expect absolutely no issues here. Miamiensis, which is going to be interesting. We'll see what happens. This is now 2 years in the ground. So we'll see. This one I know is going to get banged up, so I'll do a video on this one. This thing, you can see, this thing should be 4 times the size. This is a Urensis. I got this a couple of years ago. Has been through 2 winters now. Last winter, you could tell, got smoked. Man, it's so sad. This thing is such a beautiful palm. Who knows? Maybe it'll surprise me. I have a buddy who's got Urensises that seem to do better than this one. But I expect all these to be brown. And then to come back just like this. This thing only put out 3 fronds this year. Yeah, it is a drought. This is a Bermuda. I completely expect this one, just like last year. You could see last year's damage. This thing's going to be banged up, and I expect that. This is a Riverside again. We'll see. This thing got a little bit damaged last year, not very much. A Emerald Isle Giant Minor. I expect 0 damage. Baby Tamaulipas. I planted this guy just this year. I don't even know if you can see that. See, he's tiny. We'll see how hardy Tamaulipas are, folks. This one's going to be interesting. This is a Maritima. We'll see. This is a Guatemalensis. This one got through 10 degrees last year just fine, ironically enough. So we'll see. A Black Berana from Plant Delights. And a Birmingham. So I expect no damage on this one at all. So Sable Row as it looks right now, folks, it's pretty green. But I can tell you, looking at the weather, in the next 3 to 4 hours, we go from nearly 60 degrees right now, 61 degrees, down to 41 degrees. So it's going to be pretty depressing. Let's go walk around and take a look at some of the other things that we have here. Our Yucca RRAS, I expect no damage on these whatsoever. These are awesome. Finally starting to get a nice big, trunk, if you will. I call it a bulb. A nice body right there. These things are awesome. These things are going to have absolutely no idea. This is a Beaufort, North Carolina minor. I expect no damage. This is a Bermudiana. It's just recovering from last year. You could see all three of our Bermudanas got whacked last year at 10 degrees. So I expect this guy to be completely browned out again and to start over, which is what it is. But he came back. He's growing. So all of this will be whacked, but half of this frond that's under the ground is going to be fine. This is a Chamaerops humilis var cerifera. So we'll see just how hardy. This thing was uncovered last year at 10 degrees and seemed to make it. A Louisiana. Tamaulipas. Baldhead Island palmetto. This is a Maritima. This is my other Maritima, so we'll see how this guy does. I'm going to throw a bucket over our saw palmetto, Serenoa repens. I like this guy. He spear pulled last year at 10 degrees. Almost no protection whatsoever. But he came out strong this year. He's grown a bunch of spears. I really like this one. So I'll protect him pretty basically just this time around. Emerald Isle Giant Minor. No protection. I don't really care about this one. It'll be fine. Another one, no protection. These need no protection. These guys are Blue Java bananas. Say bye-bye, folks. They're going to be frozen stiff shortly. There's no saving these, unfortunately, but they'll come back. They do every year. A McCurtain Minor. A Sable Lisa. They actually had a spear pull that hasn't put out a spear yet, so I don't know what this thing's doing. It's probably not alive anymore, but it is what it is. If you're wondering what's underneath this entire pack job right here, this is Arbutia jubea. I ran out of tape, so I did Mylar. And man, Mylar is fantastic. And actually, I'm going to fix this here real quick. Hold on 1 second. So, just some incandescent C9 lights and wrapped with 2 big old pieces of frost cloth and Mylar. So God willing, this thing is going to not be blown away by the wind chill tonight. So we'll see what happens. This thing took 10 degrees last year with the basic frost cloth and C9 lights, and literally there was not a single burnt tip on it. It was only burnt where I had the C9 lights up against its new spear that was coming out of the growth point. Other than that, this thing was perfect. So I have high hopes. Birmingham, I'm not worried about it at all. A Rosii, I had an extra frost cloth, so I put over. This thing didn't even get a single piece of burn at 10 degrees. It was pretty remarkable. A Bermudiana, you can see that's where it got whacked last year. I fully expect the same thing this year. But who knows? We'll see, man. As these things get older, as they're in the ground for years and years, we'll see how they react. This Urensis, actually, which is interesting. I don't know what the variety on this one is, but this one, I thought last year at 10 degrees was completely browned out. It just looked shriveled and sad. And then once the freeze went away, got some rain, its fronds completely plumped up, and it looked fine. And it's grown 4 fronds this year. So that one, I'm not worried about at all. Bigger Lisa, this one's awesome. 10 degrees last year. We'll see how this champ performs this time around as well. This is a Riverside. I don't know what this thing's doing. This thing may end up being replaced. And then a Mexicana. This one as well is doing quite well. So we'll see what this one looks like after this cold weather. I think we're set to get 18 degrees tomorrow morning, which just really sucks. What's crazy is, again, it's nearly 70 degrees right now. There's parts of our grass that are waking up. Here is our Birmingham that we had bought. This is an Alligator Alley Birmingham. This thing was a 4-gallon when I planted it 2 years ago. And you can see this thing is beautiful. I mean, again, this is why you plant these. By the pool. It doesn't matter what the weather is here in North Texas. This thing's not going to go anywhere. I got 4 other minors in between. One. This is a Warren, Arkansas. This is a McCurtain, and this is an Emerald Isle Giant as well. And then, as you probably already know, our Brazoriensis over here. a blue form Brazoriensis. This thing doesn't seem to really care about the weather either. 10 degrees, several days under freezing, doesn't really care. This thing is happy and growing. So these are indestructible, and that's why they're here. This is Arjubea butea. This is just planted a couple months ago. Actually, I might want to put this rock over here. There you go. So very small. I just put a bunch of incandescent bulbs as well at the base. Just pile them up. Extra heat. Keep the wind off of it. A Brahia armata. This thing has done nothing this year, but it's still alive, so I'm leaving it be. Our Folifera, our DFW Folifera. This is its first winter, so I'll give it its first inaugural year wrapping. This is a Brazoriensis blue form. You could tell the difference from the one by the pool. That one sits in muck, and it loves it. This is just a regular palmetto. This guy doesn't look very good, but he's still growing. This is an Emerald Isle giant miner. This is another palmetto that I got from my buddy at Palm-Pay. And this thing has never been protected, and I've just left this thing alone, and it just seems to do very, very well. So we'll see what it looks like. Our Fortunae Trachycarpus that got cut about halfway down that trunk from 2021. So this thing is a survivor. We'll see what this thing looks like after this weather, though. We'll see. Come over here. You got a Birmingham from Alligator Alley. I'm not too concerned about it at all. A blue form Brazoriensis. Not concerned about this thing at all as well. They're all getting bigger, which is great. This is a Mexicana, which for some reason is not very happy. It hasn't had a spear pull or anything. It's just they I don't know why. I don't know what the deal is, but I leave these alone. They figure it out. These are tough. It'll push that back out in the spring. This thing's, I don't know if this thing's spear pulled. I'll have to go back and look. But this thing, it browned out last year after 10 degrees unprotected. This is a Louisiana. This thing has been through 10 degrees. This thing is never protected. I don't really have to worry about this one. This is an Alligator Alley in Louisiana. This thing is hefty. I love it. It's getting thick. This is our 2021, our Survivor Mexicana. This one I have a really big special affinity to. My first real palm out here. And you can see last year's beatdown. A little bit of last year's beatdown, but this year's growth. I mean, this thing is awesome. So I fully expect this thing to get whacked, but this is what it is. What I believe to be a huge miner. This thing is just massive. Or it's Louisiana. I'm not really sure yet. We'll see in the future. Regardless, I'm glad I planted this thing here, because this thing is like indestructible. This thing takes 10 degrees like an absolute champion. I love it. I got a Nanops over here, which you've probably seen. It is protected simply by a bucket or a garbage can and nothing else, just to keep the water off it. Last year, it actually spear pulled, but it came back. That's an Atonia, a Miamiensis, unprotected, a Louisiana, unprotected, a McCurtain County Miner, unprotected. I don't have to worry about that one at all. Chamrops Humulus var Serifera as well. This is good. It's going to be interesting to see how this one fares. So we'll see. Unprotected. Miner over there. This one I know is going to get beaten because it did last year, but it came back this year with a vengeance. Black Berana. This thing was not a fan of 10 degrees. It's not going to be a fan again, but it'll outgrow it. Its damage. I rest assured. All this is new growth. It's slow actually. It's about two and a half fronds, but they're big. It's a distinct look on a sable. I love it. And then over here is a Black Berniana from Plant Delights.
looks a lot different than the one over there from Cali. So we'll see. This one has never really had any problems with the cold, so it's some suspect as to whether it's actually a black Berana at planter lights. Who knows? This is my rescue Butia that last year at 10 degrees I didn't cover at all, but this year I decided to give it some heat and a frost blanket because last year it kind of got a little bit, all browned out. Had a spear pole, but it came back in April. It came back roaring. So give it just a little bit of love. We'll walk back over here. Emerald Isle Giant Minor as well. Not worried about it. There's a bald head palmetto down here somewhere. I swear. Little guy right here. They look terrible, but I grow them from like a small size. It's in there somewhere, I promise you. This is a folifera again, a DFW. Genetics wrapped up. Its first year. This is my Causiarum. I'll be shocked if this thing actually makes it through this event. This thing is just not happy, but it is what it is. This thing has survived. Its parents have survived 10 degrees, so we'll see. This is Megatron. He is alive, so we'll see. He's under the ground, so I'm not that worried about him. This is a Riverside, I believe. I gotta pull the grass out of these things, dang. This is a Birmingham, which is just now starting to get nice and big in size. Not too worried about him. Again, a Urensis that I have to do some pruning on. A Brazoriensis, a blue form, which I could care less about this thing. I'm not concerned about it at all. It looks great. It says, "Bring on the winter." This is an Emerald Isle Giant. And then we have this one Birmingham over here that has just been... I thought it was dead, but it just will not die. This thing just needs water over here. This area is just terrible. And there's a bunch of other stuff over here. I mean, I planted like 100 Sable Minors, Louisianas, all kinds of stuff in here. And they're growing. They just need some sun and some heat and stuff like that because they're all tiny. I plant things tiny. So that's it, guys. I mean, hope everybody who's in the path of this storm is safe. Hope you guys are warm. If you're like me, you hate the wintertime. So this can't be over fast enough. Yeah, I wish everybody the best, man. We'll see you guys on the other side. Everyone be good.